Hello there, very good evening and welcome to your Primetime News Bulletin. I'm Shane Silva.
And I'm Krishna Panditaratna.
Coming up on the news tonight.
Do you believe that we have the ability to intercept a missile if the North Koreans launch?
I believe we have a credible ability to defend the homeland.
We have more on the heightening tension on the Korean Peninsula on the news. First, on the News First International Desk, but first a look at the headlines.
The Army Court of Inquiry report on the allegations that civilians were assaulted during the war submitted to the Defence Secretary. Parliamentarian Anurukumara Dissanayake says some of the beneficiaries have not received welfare payments for several months. Deputy Minister Nandimitra Ekanayake discontent with the post of district organizer. And a protest in Mullaitivu over alleged invasion of traditional lands and ocean resources.
4 bills were passed in Parliament this evening. Incidentally, President Mahinda Rajapaksa also attended the Parliament today. The bills that were passed this evening were the Inland Revenue Amendment Bill, the Notaries Amendment Bill, the Registration of Document Amendment Bill, and the Power of Attorney Amendment Bill.
Democratic National Alliance parliamentarian Anurukumara Dissanayake informed Parliament today that some of the beneficiaries have been made to face severe hardship as they have been deprived of their welfare payments for several months.
It was revealed in the media recently that 1,583,961 Samruddhi beneficiaries in the island are facing severe hardship because they have not received their welfare payments for about 5 months. The Samruddhi Development Officers Union exposed this matter. The General Secretary of the Union, Chamara Madduma Kaluge, who spoke to the media, has been suspended for making the statement to the media. All benefits due to Samruddhi beneficiaries for 2013 will be deposited in Samruddhi banks by divisional secretariats via the district secretaries. 1,163 million rupees must be disbursed for the month of April 2013. It has been reported that steps have been taken to deposit these funds in Samruddhi banks before the 2013 new year. Steps were taken against him for making false and malicious statements to criticize a primary program of the government in violation of the institutional code.
Speaking at a media briefing in Colombo yesterday, Deputy Minister of Higher Education Nandimitra Ekanayake expressed his views on the position of a district organizer conferred upon him by his party.
I am not an electorate organizer. There is a position of district organizer. You cannot do anything with that position. When you go to each electorate, the electorate organizers disapprove. When they convene Balamandala meetings, they do not inform us. When they organize a ceremony with the participation of a minister, they do not inform us. This is the truth. This does not apply to me alone. This is the situation everywhere. I am not speaking about other parties, I am speaking of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party. People in other parties call us. The duty of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party supporters is to strengthen the SLFP. That is why the Nil Ralla program was initiated. Even for this, I do not receive any active support. I have not been given a responsibility, but I am free.
පක්ෂ ගත්තම පක්ෂෙත් ඉතින් ඇති නැති වෙන්නත් බෑ කොහොමද දිස්ත්‍රික්කේ දිනවනේ දිස්ත්‍රික්කේ පාක්ෂික සංවිධායකවරු මහාකතුමාත් ප්‍රකාශයක් කළා තිබුණා විශ්‍රාම යනවා කියලා ඒකනේ මගෙනුත් මේ ඇහැවි.
The report of the Army Court of Inquiry, which investigated allegations that the Army deliberately attacked civilians, was submitted to the Defence Secretary by the Army Commander today.
According to military spokesperson Brigadier Ruwan Wanigasurya, the Court of Inquiry report was first handed over to the Army Commander and the report was presented to the Defence Secretary today with the conclusions of the Army Commander. The report was compiled based on a recommendation made by the Lessons Learnt and Reconciliation Commission. The LLRC, appointed by the President, has made observations on the Army and in addition, allegations were also made by Channel 4. The military spokesperson further said that the inquiry relating to the allegations levelled by Channel 4 is continuing.
Parliamentary Group Leader of the Tamil National Alliance, R. Sambandhan, speaking in Parliament today, commented on the attacks carried out on TNA meetings and the attack on the Udaya newspaper office in Kilinochchi.
Mr. Speaker, you will observe that the common feature of all these attacks is that they have been carried out by or with the connivance of the security forces and the police, and even though the assailants were identifiable, no arrests have been made. These are also carried out under the watchful eyes of the police. This is clearly indicative of the complicity of the authorities. These attacks on the democratic rights of the Tamil people, of the freedom of association, freedom of opinion, and freedom of expression in the north and the east are clearly carried out with the active support, sanction, and collusion of the Sri Lankan government. They are a vain and counterproductive attempt to suppress and persecute Tamils, the Tamil people, for their political aspirations. We call on the Sri Lankan government to immediately cease the violence directed against the Tamil people. We reiterate that to prevent a non-recurrence of the past, Sri Lanka must expeditiously commence a meaningful and genuine process of reconciliation based upon the ascertainment of the truth, ensuring justice and providing adequate reparations for the victims of violations committed by all parties.
I am not saying that the police are 100% right. There may be those who do wrong. In all these incidents, the police have arrested these people. They have even been produced in court. All these cannot be stopped by a government.
පොලිසියට වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න අවස්ථාව ලැබුණේ නැහැ. මම දැක්කා හමුදාවේ යුද්ධ හමුදාවේ නිලධාරීන් කීප දෙනෙක්. ඒ නිසා විශේෂයෙන් පස්සේ මම හමුදාවේ අපි දන්නේ නැහැ තුඟක් ඉන්නවා මේ විභාග හොයලා බැලුවා මේ.
I saw that the police did not get the opportunity to do their duty. There were a lot of people that we do not know from the army who were there. We received reports from Colombo as well. Regular military personnel were not involved in this. They only acted to rescue the personnel who were there dressed in civilian clothing. I accept that these people were from the army because I gave Major General Mahinda Hathrusingha all the information he needs in order to act on this matter. Nothing has happened as yet. Some in the army are afraid. There is a fear that Major General Hathrusingha and KP may attack all of us. I do not know whether LTTE leader KP and Major General Hathrusingha are acting on a different agenda. I do not know whether they are trying to kill those in the TNA because the LTTE also killed several leaders in the TNA.
TNA ගෙන් ආයට මරන්නද කියලා මොකද LTT ගෙන් TNA නායකව ගන්නවම මැරුවා නැත්තම්
ඒ දවස් අපිට කතාවක් විපක්ෂ නායකතුමත් එක්ක ගිය කට්ටිය තමයි මේ කලබලය ඇති කරේ කියලා.
ගරු අගමැතිතුමනි ඔබතුමා එතන හිටියේ නැහැ.
ප්‍රචාරයක් ඇති කරා.
ප්‍රචාරයක් නෙමෙයි ගරු කරුණාකරලා ඉල්ලා කරගන්න. ඔබතුමාගේ ඔය තනතුර නැති කරන්න යන්න එපා.
In other local stories, a demonstration was held this morning at the Mullaitivu town. The demonstration was held citing that the lands handed down through the generations and marine resources in the district have been invaded.
Parliamentarians, religious leaders, public representatives, activists and many others took part in this demonstration at the Mullaitivu town. They charged that the invasion on lands and marine life has severely affected their rights and their professions. The demonstrators point out that as the fishermen in the south use illegal methods in fishing in the Kokilai, Nayaru, Wattuwakal, Nandikadal areas, their professions are at risk. In addition, they charge that their agricultural lands in Kokkutoduwai, Kokilai, Karunattukkeni, Kumulumune, Semmalai, Alambil that have been handed down through generations have been invaded. They point out that due to various reasons, they have been prohibited from entering some areas. The government has planned this out. They could stop this and look into the resettlement of those who were affected by the war. They should immediately put a stop to illegal fishing. Destruction to wildlife should be completely stopped. There are 120,000 persons affected by the war in this district, and a proposal had been made requesting their ancestral lands. Yet, they have not received their lands. Therefore, those who were affected by the war should be given priority, but because of the fear for some government politicians and representatives, this has stopped. What we say is that everyone should be given land. We are asking for lands from our respectful areas. We did not ask for lands in Colombo. We want lands from the Mullaitivu district. For 30 years, we did not receive a solution to our land issues. Meanwhile, a letter to the President explaining the situation faced by those displaced by the war and later resettled in the Mullaitivu district was handed to the District Secretary today.
At a media briefing in Vavuniya today, the Sahodaratve Janata Power proposed a special commission to be established to resolve the land issues in Mullaitivu.
Who owns these ancestral lands? Who should be given ownership of these lands? We propose that a commission be established to identify the first settlers of these lands. It does not matter whether the first settlers are Sinhalese, Tamils, Muslims, Burghers or Malays. They have to be given these lands.
Testifying before the Buddhist Culture Rejuvenation Committee today, Dr. Gunadasa Amarasekara expressed these views on holding elections for the Northern Provincial Council.
We can see that today, rather than speaking of whether the 13th Amendment should be implemented or not, talk is about on whether the elections in the North should be held or not. When talk of implementing the 13th Amendment becomes debatable, I see that elections are being held in the North in order to mitigate this. The President spoke a while back regarding holding elections in the North, but we did not take much notice of it because the President has expressed similar sentiments before. As soon as elections are held in the North, the TNA, the Tamil nationalists, will come into power. A week after the Provincial Council is established, they will ask for land and police powers. Based on the provisions of the Constitution, you cannot afford to ignore them. The 13th Amendment to the Constitution is completely illegal. The National Rejuvenation Committee, appointed by Raja Vanasundara, pointed this out. On that day, the bench did not pass this with a majority. He pointed out that this does not need a majority and that this can be annulled with an act of parliament.
The visiting Indian parliamentary delegation visited Jaffna today. The Indian parliamentary delegation arrived at the Mahendrapura area in Jaffna and inspected the housing project that was initiated under sponsorship of the Indian central government. The delegation also engaged in a cordial discussion with the locals in the area. Area residents briefed the Indian delegation regarding the shortcomings at some of the houses built. Our correspondent in the area said that the delegation also inspected the housing projects in Elidumattuwal and Gurunagar in Jaffna. Meanwhile, a media briefing convened by the Jathika Helurumaya today, views were expressed on the visiting Indian parliamentary delegation.
සිංහල බහුතරයක් අතරේ මේ ජීවත් වෙන දෙමළ ජනතාවගේ ඉරණම පිළිබඳ මුලින් හොයලා බලන්න. එතුමන්ලාගේ දැනගැනීම පිණිස අපි කියන්නේ අද කොළඹ නගරයේ දෙමළ ජනගහනය.
Firstly, make a visit to Marine Drive in Valawata and look into the fate of the Tamils and the manner in which they live in midst of the Sinhalese. The Tamil population in Colombo stands 33%. The number exceeds the Sinhala population in Colombo. It is clear that the Indian government is responsible for the issues of the Tamils in Sri Lanka as well as the issues of the Sinhalese and Muslims who had to suffer at the hands of the LTTE. Following the murder of Rajiv Gandhi, everyone who gave evidence before the Jain Commission spoke openly. They said that the Indian government and the Tamil Nadu government assisted the LTTE. Why is the Indian government not implementing the recommendations made by that commission? We urge the Indian parliamentarians to free themselves from this mentality of treating Sri Lanka as their colony and consider Sri Lanka as an equal state.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාව තමන්ගේ යටත්විද්‍යාවක් කියන මානසිකත්වයෙන් මිදලා ශ්‍රී ලංකාව සමාන රාජ්‍යයක් හැටියට කල්පනා කරලා විධිමත් අවබෝධය ලබා ගන්න.